Welcome, aspirants. Let's dive straight into this week's essential current affairs. We're talking about the key facts, figures, and developments you absolutely need to have on your radar for your upcoming exams.
This week was packed with some major developments, everything from geopolitics to some pretty groundbreaking tech. So let's break down exactly what you need to remember point by point.
First up, we're going to look at two critical global stories. These have direct implications for international relations. And trust me, they are high-yield topics for your exams.
So, in a pretty big geopolitical shift, the United States and Iran have agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. Now, this is a huge deal because, really, any de-escalation in the Middle East has an immediate ripple effect on global energy markets and regional stability. But this whole agreement, it all hinges on a really complex set of demands that Iran has put on the table.
Okay, for your exam, this is where you really need to focus. It's all about understanding Iran's conditions. They're pretty comprehensive, and you can really group them into 3 core pillars. First, you've got security guarantees. We're talking a non-aggression pact and the withdrawal of U.S. forces. Second, it's about sanctions. They want complete relief. That means both the primary sanctions that target Iran directly and those tricky secondary sanctions that penalize other countries for doing business with them. And third, it's all about national sovereignty. This includes control over the Strait of Hormuz and, of course, acceptance of its uranium enrichment program. Mastering these points is absolutely crucial.
So why is Iran's demand for control over the Strait of Hormuz such a massive point of negotiation? Well, it all comes down to its strategic importance. And here's a key figure you need to remember for your exams. Almost 20% of the world's entire energy supply passes through this waterway. That makes it a critical choke point for global trade and security.
All right, shifting gears to climate policy. India has made a really significant decision about the 2028 COP33 summit. They've formally notified the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, that it is officially withdrawing its bid to host the event.
Now, the crucial point here, and it's a distinction you need to make, is separating the act of hosting the summit from pursuing climate action. As you can see, pulling the hosting bid is a totally separate issue from India's commitment to its climate goals. India is still fully committed to its emission targets. That distinction is a key takeaway for any question you might get on environmental policy.
Let's move over to the economy. We're going to see how all this builds a picture of strong domestic performance, even with all the headwinds blowing in from the global scene.
So the big headline number coming from the World Bank is a super strong 7.6% GDP growth projection for India in the financial year 2026. This really solidifies India's position as a key engine of growth in South Asia, and it's a great signal for continued foreign investment.
But the forecast isn't all rosy. It also shows a slight moderation, down to 6.6% in the following year, FY27. So why the slowdown? Well, it's mainly attributed to external factors. Things like global uncertainties and rising energy prices, which could definitely put a damper on trade and investment.
To support the real backbone of the economy, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, the Reserve Bank of India is making a key change to a system called TREDS. Now, that's an acronym you'll definitely want to remember for your banking and economy sections. It's all about improving liquidity for small businesses.
The process itself is actually pretty simple, but it's really powerful. An MSME just uploads an invoice, the corporate buyer gives it the green light, and then financiers bid to pay that invoice right away. This lets small businesses get cash up front instead of having to wait through those long payment cycles. And the RBI's new proposal, it's all about streamlining this even further to improve cash flow for this vital sector.
Okay, let's shift gears now to 2 major updates from the world of technology. We're going to cover both infrastructure and the race for artificial intelligence. This is a total game changer. The UAE has just launched the world's first commercial 10G internet network. We're talking download speeds of up to 10 gigabits per second. This is a massive leap forward in digital connectivity that's going to power the next generation of data-hungry applications.
So how is this incredible speed even possible? Well, it's thanks to something called the U6 GHz spectrum. They've nicknamed it the Golden Band because it hits that perfect sweet spot, offering both super high speed and wide coverage. This is the key to handling all the heavy data traffic we're going to need for future tech like AI, virtual reality, and eventually 6G.
Now, over in the AI space, Meta has released its new model, Muse Spark. But, unlike that huge tech launch in the UAE, its debut has been met with, well, let's just say some pretty mixed reviews.
It's really designed for those practical, everyday tasks, like analyzing photos or answering questions. And the plan is to integrate it across all of Meta's platforms, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook, with the goal of making AI just a normal part of your social media experience.
But some prominent AI experts have been pretty critical. François Jolet actually called it a disappointment, arguing that the model seems to be more optimized for passing public benchmark tests rather than showing any real usefulness in real-world situations. Ouch.
To their credit, Meta has responded pretty openly to the criticism. They've acknowledged the feedback and the performance gaps, but they also highlighted the model's strengths in areas like visual coding and reasoning. They're basically framing this launch as just the beginning of a much longer journey to improve the model based on how people actually use it.
Okay, so from the cutting edge of AI, we're going to pivot to a really foundational piece of general knowledge. This is a classic that frequently appears in exams, and it connects geography, agriculture, and the economy.
For your exams, you've got to remember this key fact. Nasik in Maharashtra is known as the onion hub of India. And why is that? It's all because of its perfect climate and that fertile black soil, which are just ideal for large-scale onion cultivation.
And here's a crucial comparison you need to know. Take a look at the table. You'll see that while Maharashtra is the #1 producer within India, on the global stage, China actually ranks first. India as a whole country comes in second. Knowing both the national and the global context here is really key.
So let's do a quick recap. We've covered the critical conditions in the Iran-US ceasefire, India's economic forecast and its climate policy shift, the RBI's support for MSMEs through TREDS, those major tech advancements, and of course, that essential general knowledge fact on agriculture.
And that is your briefing for this week. Keep connecting these dots, because understanding how these different stories influence each other, that's what's going to set you apart. We'll see you in the next explainer.